Shall we begin? Let's begin now.
All right, folks, welcome to a new episode of the Frankie Francisco podcast. I am your host, Francisco. Today's guest is very special. I've been trying to chase her down for months now. I've known her for 4 years now. We worked together for almost 2 years. She went from corporate America to being a full-time baker. She's very talented, very creative. Her name is Shawna O'Hara. How are we doing today, Shawna?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to have you on. So essentially, I think I've told you before, my podcast is we talk about and we try to feature people who are up and comers, people who own small businesses, so we can promote their business. They can give tips to people about following their passion, about what they do. So with that being said, tell me about how you went from corporate America to doing what you're doing now.
Well, it kind of everything started by accident, to be perfectly honest. I've always enjoyed baking. It's something I've always done with my mom growing up, my grandmas growing up, usually just around holidays or birthdays. And when I had my daughter, I went ahead and I would always make her birthday cakes, and we'd always do our annual Christmas cookies, like 5 or 6 different kinds of cookies. And then just kind of as social media and YouTube and things became more relevant and you started seeing these bakers doing things, my daughter, who kind of encouraged me, she's really artistic. So we started playing around with some of the different techniques with some of our cookies and posted them on Facebook, just like, look what we did. And people started asking me if they could have those too. And then just making my daughter's birthday cakes and, getting ideas and things, people were impressed and started asking me for those. So it just kind of took off from there.
And I see, I follow you, obviously I follow you online, and I see, you're so creative when it comes to these designs. Like, is this stuff that you just see from other places or you come up with this stuff off the top of your head?
Usually it's really funny. As soon as somebody comes to me and asks me about a cookie or a cake, and I start getting kind of a feel of what it is that they were looking for, my brain just automatically starts going into this like overdrive. Like, I didn't even realize that I had that artistic side of me. Like, my abilities growing up were music, dance, things like that. If you would have asked me to draw something or be, creative that way, I would have been like, oh no, not me. But when they come to me with what they want and I start kind of asking questions, my brain just kind of just goes like I'm designing this cake into my head. And then I will go on to like kind of Pinterest or something like that just to kind of get an idea, see what other people have done, and just with the vision that comes from there and what's kind of going on in my head, I just end up coming up with something. And a lot of times people tell me just, they trust me, use my own, judgment, do whatever I think is right. And sometimes it's intimidating and I'm worried I'm not going to be able to pull it off. But so far it's worked out really well.
I see some of the creations you have and they look spectacular. I'm like, wow, this is like showcase type stuff that you would see on these baking shows that they do. You're really, really talented. I'm not blowing smoke. I'm serious. I seen cookies that you just put on the site now with the little nurses suits and everything else. And it's just amazing how detailed you are. Now, here's my question. Are you ordering these cookie cutters, or how are you creating the molds for this stuff?
Funny you should ask that. So yes, literally just as of a few days ago, every time somebody would ask me for something, I would go straight onto Amazon, or, my local store, craft store, and see if I can find the actual cutter. If I could not find a cutter, then I would go just onto Google and do a clip art, and I would literally just cut it out. And I would put it on my cookie dough and use an X-Acto knife to go ahead and trace out the shape of the cookie because I couldn't find a cookie cutter. But just the other day, I became the proud owner of a 3D printer.
Nice.
Yes. My husband's kind of on the geeky side, and he's been talking to me about a 3D printer for well over a month now. And, just kind of didn't really think too much into it. And then we've literally had this printer hooked up for 2-3 days now, and I've already printed off like over, I think, 5 or 6 cookie cutters for upcoming orders that I will no longer have to order myself, because sometimes they're really hard to find. And if it's a really complicated one, I've gone to Etsy, which loves supporting anybody, that's doing it. But I'm gonna invest in myself in a little bit now. So,
well, I mean, I think you have to. I mean, especially when you have a passion for something. And I truly believe you have a passion for baking. I can see it by the work that you put out there. But the fact that you invested in a 3D printer, that tells me you are betting on yourself, and that's paying off. For people out there that have a passion for baking like you do, what is it that you can? How do you think they should start out? I mean, should they start out like you did, just being a home baker and getting people to, sample stuff like you? When we used to work together, you used to bring in the lollipop cupcakes, and this was homemade stuff. This wasn't stuff that you were buying from the store.
right.
So for future bakers, how would you, especially the young ones, you know what I mean? Because you and I are, we've been around for a while, and we're both trying to create ourselves, create a brand for ourselves, that we couldn't get it done when we were younger. But for somebody who's young and is up and coming, what advice would you give someone that's in that realm that wants to do what you're doing?
I would say just make sure that you love it. Don't ever make it something that becomes so hard or so time consuming or thought consuming that it becomes a stressor to you as opposed to a love. And that's one of the things that I'm enjoying by kind of doing it out of my home and having that control, is that I can dictate my schedule. I can control how much I want to do versus not wanting to do. I try to make it very clear. I am self-taught. This is something that I've done through my cookie recipe. My cutout cookie recipe is truly my great grandmother's, that she wrote down. In fact, it was funny when I got her recipe, I didn't even, instead of butter, she had written oleo. I didn't even know what that was. I had to look it up because I was like, who uses that word?
Right.
So I would say that that's the biggest thing, is just making sure that you're really enjoying it, and and you're putting out the best that you can be. And I feel I do that by being able to control, my my orders and how much I'm doing at a time, and that I'm not overbooking and things like that. And just, I'm all about taste. So that was something I really focused on too, for people getting started in this. Is I've always kind of carried this motto in my head that there's no point in being able to do this if your stuff doesn't taste good.
Right.
I hear a lot of times, these people will tell me stories where they ordered this like ridiculously expensive cake from this, nice bakery that, everybody's heard of or whatever. And it was dry, or it was beautiful, but it didn't taste really well. So I'm really big on how my stuff tastes. I'm open for criticism. I love the feedback. Please tell me, was it too dry? Was it this? Was it that? Because I promise you, if you order from me again, whatever you thought was wrong the first time, it will not be wrong the second time.
Well, it's a learning, sir. It's a learning curve. We always gotta learn. You bake, and then you figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you, what flavors work for you and what flavors doesn't work for you. So let me ask you a question. With the way society is now and everybody's being more health driven, are you able to do like gluten-free baking? Can you do dairy, non-dairy? I mean, have you done any of that for the folks out there?
I have. I got asked to do my first vegan,
Oh,
like
vegan, huh?
full on vegan cake. It was thankfully a carrot cake. So my carrot cake, that was pretty easy. Just had to change up, some of the ingredients, but they wanted a cream cheese frosting on it, all vegan. And that was hard. That was a learning. I ended up giving that cake away for free.
Really?
Did. Because I am my worst critic. So the frosting on a vegan cake, it's much looser.
Stick?
It's not as stable
Ah,
as, say, when I'm using just butter, cream cheese, powdered sugar type deal. So to me, the cake didn't meet the standards of what I had envisioned in my brain for it to look like. And since I felt like I pretty much experimented with this person's birthday cake, it was just a small one, but still. And then I did my very first, I've had a few people now ask me, they want my cookies, but they want them eggless. And it, um, so I'm not sure where. So
eggless. They wanted the eggless cookies.
yep, they wanted eggless cookies, and I use meringue powder in my royal icing. So I went ahead and critiqued the recipes following the guidelines that they suggested when eliminating egg from your recipes. And although I was not as happy with the way, because it's always hard when you're working with different textures and different consistencies than what you're used to. They told me that they were absolutely great, that they were so good. They really enjoyed them. So I'm open to trying things, but I do enjoy just the old fashioned full on butter. My cakes are not fat free.
So what was the end result of the carrot cake? What did they say?
They said it was really good.
Really?
So yeah, even though it didn't look the way that I wanted it to look, just because the frosting was so soft, it wouldn't I was trying to create like a fault line in the middle, and she was really into the old 1930s, 40s horror movies.
Oh, okay.
So I had printed off posters of all the different old school movies to kind of put into the middle of it, but it wasn't holding up. So it was like literally melting before my eyes.
So do you use that like that edible paper on there?
Yeah, I also invested in an edible printer.
Okay, you got an edible printer. That's nice.
Yeah, so it's basically just a regular printer. You just use edible ink, food
Huh.
coloring, and it works just like a regular printer. And I use it when people are wanting something that's maybe a little more specialized or detailed, or they're wanting the exact replica of, that I'm not able to hand pipe.
So are you doing like fondant too? Are you messing with that as well or no?
I do a little bit of fondant. I'm not a huge fan of it. Most people rip it off. They like the way that it looks in terms of the smoothness, but in the
Yeah.
end, he really likes the taste of it.
It's too thick. To me, it's way too
and
thick.
it's very, very, very sweet. So I will use some fondant for some detailing or to create maybe a certain pattern, but I've even started experimenting in buttercream, and that's my favorite palette to work with.
Yeah.
And working with different textures and learning different things so that I can almost create that exact same look with the fondant that I do with regular frosting.
So how are you cataloging every creation that you make? How do you keep a record of all that? That way, hey, this I did this I did that. But you got to keep a record of what you make.
Yes. So I'm pretty old school when it comes to this. It drives my husband crazy, especially being the computer geek that he is. I have a notebook and I literally write down in my notebook, like my recipes, what I did differently, what I didn't, how many cakes, like how many cake layers that recipe makes me, if I need to convert it into cupcakes, how many cupcakes I'm able to get out of that recipe. Everything is written down in just a basic notebook that I bought at Target.
Now, at some point, do you want to turn that into a full-blown cookbook that you can try to publish?
I haven't thought about that too much. We do have a app. My husband keeps telling me I need to go in and put all my recipes in there. That kind of does that. It labels them and,
Oh, okay.
writes them all out, maps them all out for you. And he has suggested to me multiple times to sit down and type everything into this program so that if I ever choose to or wanted to, it's all there, it's all laid out for me. So no, not too much yet. Thinking not too much on that path yet.
How about the visual catalog? Are you keeping a visual catalog of all your creations?
I do. I take photos of every single thing that I do. If I'm ever in a situation, because there's been times where, you're working on something, you're putting a lot of effort into it, and you're just finally done. And I'm not even thinking, and I'll box it all up. And, so I'll do the open box, forgot to take a photo of this cake picture. Or I've even had to ask, the person that I gave it to, hey, did you happen to get a photo of it? And could you send it to me so that I have it?
So how do your clients get a hold of you for orders? What ways can clients get a hold of you? Because are you just local, or are you shipping things out everywhere?
I have shipped things out. I've mostly for family. I've had family ask me for usually just my cookies. Cookie kits I will sometimes do, which is just, a package of cookies, my frosting, and a few different styles of sprinkles. And I have shipped those out. A lot of prep work involved because I'm terrified that they're going to break. So far, so good. That's gone well. But right now, most people get in touch with me, my Facebook page, which is the Sprinkles and Crumbs, which just the letter N in the middle. They message me through my Sprinkles and Crumbs Facebook page, or they will on Instagram. It's Shawna's Sprinkles and Crumbs, and they will send me a message through my Instagram account. And that's about how 90% of the people, unless they know me personally and they have my number, they, will private message me.
So social media is such a thing right now. I mean, it's amazing. Like, so I find it, for me, it gets so tiring. Every day you have to post just to stay relevant.
Yes.
Especially on IG and Facebook. You have to keep posting, because if not, people forget about you.
Right.
I mean, it's amazing. You forget to do it a week and be like, who's this person? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it gets kind of annoying, but I understand that's the best, especially IG. Like, I think IG far and away outdoes Facebook right now. Like, you get more people on IG than you do Facebook, and people look at your photos. They won't comment or they won't like, but they'll look. You know what I mean? You'll see it. Especially when you post videos. Like, I posted a few videos. One's gotten almost 1,000 views. Another one's gotten 68. And it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. They'll see it, but they won't comment on it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Or they won't like on it. It's amazing. It's amazing to me. But you just got to keep doing, like anything else. We just got to keep building the brand. And what you're doing, I think it's amazing. You went from working in finance for what, 12 years?
15
years. And now you are creating a successful small business from your own kitchen in your own home. That's something to be proud of. You know what I mean? It's something to be very proud of. And I'm 41 years old. So, I'm getting up there in age, and I'm trying to rebrand myself and trying to build something myself with this podcast. Eventually, like everybody else, I want to get sponsored. You know what I mean? That's the goal. That's the goal, but it's a work. And I love talking to people like you, because I see the passion. Like, even when you're talking right now, the passion you have when you're talking about baking is amazing. You know what I mean? It's something that you truly, you invested in a 3D printer to make cookie cutters. It just blows my mind. A lot of people are afraid to do stuff like that, to go full bore, but you've made something out of it. You should be very proud of yourself.
Thank you. I am, what keeps me motivated is, there's nothing that makes me happier than seeing somebody's face or reaction when they take a peek in their box, when I give it to them, or they have a look at it, or they, it just seeing their faces and how happy they are, and these little kids, and I'll think that I did this mediocre job, and they're just over the moon, and that just takes my heart to a level that just validates to me how much I love this and how much I love doing it for people. And that's a huge drive. That's a huge drive for me,
But
is just how happy they are.
But you're doing it with love. And that's the thing. You start out with a recipe that you got from your grandmother, and you're just building on that. Now you're creating recipes yourself. Now you're tweaking things, and you're making things in your own image when it comes to your baking.
Yeah.
And that's how it should be. You need to take something and try to make it better. You know what I mean? You need to take something and try to create something of your own, which you're doing. So eventually, do you think you're going to expand out to where you have your own website where people can actually go on and order?
Place orders, it's something that I've thought about. I've kind of always said that if I was able to not work and I could just do this full time, because as much as I love doing cookies and cakes, I've also played around with making, pastry cream, and doing pâte à choux, and doing all these other different types of levels of baking, cinnamon rolls and sticky buns. And I love doing all of those types of levels too. And so I was saying how nice it would be if I was not working, to be able to kind of make a menu.
Nice.
Of what I'm offering. This is what I'm going to have available. It hasn't even been a month yet. I'm still trying to find kind of a balance. And right now, just with orders alone, with it coming into wedding season, graduation season, I'm completely booked. I've been booked all the way through June, since about March. February, March, started booking into June.
Wow.
And I sit there and I go, okay, well, so far June is pretty booked, but not too booked yet. And it seems like every time I say that towards the end of May, I'll start getting the more calls and the more recommendations, and I'll start booking into July and August, and it just keeps going. And I'm so appreciative for that, but I'm also trying to find that balance a little bit so I can play with other types of baking.
But what's amazing is that what a lot of people don't understand, that Shawna is doing this herself. Like, you're doing all these orders. There's nobody helping you.
Yeah, just me.
It's just you, and you're getting all these orders in, and you're managing to get all these orders out. Because there's times where I've talked to you and I've tried to get you on before, and he's like, I can't. I'm working on an order, and it's like 11 o'clock at night, and you're still working on an order that you have going. You really put the time and effort into what you do, and I think that's what people like. People like the fact that you're willing to go above and beyond to satisfy the customer at the end of the day. I mean, that's what we were taught. You know what I mean?
Right.
In our jobs, the customer, if the customer is happy, they'll keep coming back. You building relationships, because eventually that person is going to say, I went to her for the graduation. Now we're getting married. Let's go get or we can order a cake from her as well.
Yes. And that's kind of been one of the coolest things, is like, even my daughter, she's 20, and all of her friends that she's had in elementary school and junior high and high school, I've done I'm doing bridal showers. I've done one of them had a baby. I did their baby's first birthday. I'm doing baby showers. So it's really kind of just so rewarding having that come around. And here I am, doing, their birthdays or their children's, or, these little milestones that they're hitting in their lives, and they're coming back to me and asking me to do them for them. And that's a really cool feeling.
Now, be honest now, have you ever not met a deadline?
One time where I got my day messed up. I thought I had one more extra day. It was when I was first getting started, kind of putting myself out there. And for some reason, most people want their cakes or their orders on Saturdays or Sundays. And this particular person wanted theirs on a Friday, and I was at work. not getting off until 5. And she happened to message me and asked when was a good time for her to come pick up her cake. And oh my gosh, I had oh, it was terrible. That was the worst feeling ever, ever, ever. And I ended up pulling it off. I literally, I ducked out of work early. I was like, I gotta go. And I left work early. I went home. It was the first time I recruited my husband. And I was like, you do this and you work on that. And I'm gonna do this.
But you pulled it off though. You pulled it off
We
at the end.
pulled it off. We pulled it off. It wasn't, I was so devastated. So now it's really funny. I actually had a friend message me today about her daughter's 21st, which happens to fall on a Tuesday. And she told me the date she wanted the cake. And I was like, yeah, we went through all the details, talked about everything. And then I realized that it was a Tuesday. So I messaged her and I was like, hey, I just want to make sure that you really want this on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Was like, no, I really do. I was like, okay, I always want to make double check on those weekday orders.
So on a serious note, now when it comes to any business, okay, we sometimes get overwhelmed, and this is for anybody. So for somebody who's in a small business like you are, when things start to become overwhelming, how do you handle that type of pressure? Because it is pressure, even if you're doing a small business from home. There's pressure to meet orders. There's self-doubt that you have in yourself that you can get this done, that it's going to take. How do you cope with that? And what advice would you give people who are feeling that pressure right now when they're trying to build something for themselves?
So I would honestly say, because yes, like I mentioned earlier, I am my biggest critic.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I had to remind myself of, actually a couple of things I had to remind myself of, is one, not every single person that you bake for is going to call you up and let you know it went well. So don't freak out when you don't hear from them the next day, or they don't say anything. Just let those things go. Two, not everybody's going to like you, even if I feel like maybe because I didn't hear from them, something was wrong. It's usually more me than them. And I get feedback down the road, that it was great, or they come back to me again. I'm learning this. So for example, I have a very large order coming up that I committed to, in 2 weeks' time. Research. I've started doing a lot of research. I'm really big on trying to make my things fresh, make things within a few days ahead of time. So that things aren't being frozen and sitting around. But in this particular case, I had to learn what kind of resources can I have available to me? What do I need to do to make this less stressful, to make sure that they're getting my best work and that I'm not compromising by trying to stress myself and give them their product, in a timely manner that's going to be fresh and beautiful, like they're expecting from me. And so I do a lot of research and I do a lot of reading and seeing, what I can do to kind of help myself with time management, so that I'm not trying to knock out 300 cookies in 3 days.
Right.
It's just being confident. I mean, most people, they don't do this. And I have to remind myself of that. They're coming to me because this is something that I've taught myself how to do. And even though I'm my worst critic, when they see their cookie or their cake, they're so happy because it isn't something that maybe they would have been able to do. And I try to keep it reasonable. I'm not going to charge you $180 for your 2-tiered cake. I take the cost of my ingredients and my time and I try to make it as reasonable and affordable as possible, so.
And that's why you have people coming back, but you found the way to de-stress yourself by taking a step back every once in a while, looking at the big picture, saying, listen, I need to do better time management so I don't freak out. Like you said, you have an order for 300 cookies. You don't want to have to take 3 days to try to get all that done.
Right.
You know what your prep time is. You'll calculate all that and all this. I actually see you down the road. Honestly, I could see you having like a pop-up, you know what I mean, doing a pop-up store here, or
Hmm.
uh having a storefront at some point, even a bakery food truck. I don't even know if they do bakery food trucks. I don't even know if that's a thing. You know what I mean? But I could see you doing something like that because you do it with such passion, and you can hear it in your voice. And I just want you to continue just striving for what you're doing right now. I think it's fantastic. You went from a 15-year career in finance to being a full-time a baker. It's amazing the transition that you made, and you had the strength and the perseverance to do it. A lot of people are afraid to take that step. They really are.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely a little intimidating. But at the same time, it's, I don't know, like you, I'm in my 40s, and I'm very fortunate. I have, my family supports me, my husband supports me, my child's doing well. She doesn't need me 24/7 anymore. She's older, and I'm in a good place. So that definitely helped with my decision process on, being able to take that leap right now, and give this a proper go.
So for the folks out there, let them know one more time where they can reach you at if they want to order some of your goods that you have.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So on Facebook, you can get me at Sprinkles and Crumbs, and it's the letter N in the middle. So Sprinkles and Crumbs. And on Instagram, it is Shawna's Sprinkles and Crumbs. And if you go to like a website, Sprinkles and Crumbs, that will direct you to my Facebook.
Okay,
So
so they can just go to the website and it'll just click them there to your Facebook to be able to reach out to you and message
exactly.
you.
Yep. It'll direct you straight through. And I have
That
a phone number. I have my email. Everything's there. You can always get in touch with me.
that's awesome. I mean, I think that's phenomenal. So listen, thank you for the time. I know you're busy. I know it's been crazy with all the orders you have. I appreciate you taking the time to step out, sit down, and have a conversation with us, letting people out there know that something like this can happen. Something like this can go on. You can change your path. You can try to reach for something more that you didn't think you could do before. I think you inspire a lot of people. I think this podcast is going to inspire some folks out there to go, if she can do it, I can do it. I really do. It's a beautiful thing to see. And I don't think enough people pursue their dreams because some people are scared to take that leap of faith. And
Very
I'm
true.
and I'm glad you did, because it's not like you were, dependent on your husband. You had your own career. You were
Yes.
making
Oh,
your own
yeah.
money. You know,
For sure. Yes. Yes. I was contributor to our lifestyle and our income with my job. So, life is short. All too well. I know all too well. Life is short, and you're only given a few good years to really be able to do something with it, where you're not relying on other people, and you are able to do it yourself. So, do what you love, take that chance, take that leap, go for it, do it. What's the worst that can happen? If it doesn't work out, then you go back to the 40-hour grind,
hey,
you
so
know?
look at me. I did security for 12 years before I got into finance, and I took that leap of faith. Faith. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it, and I've been the most successful I've ever been doing this stuff. And I'm good at what I do, but I want to take that next step in my career and do what I'm doing now full time if I can.
Yeah.
It just got to keep building it and building it and building and talking to people like you and getting a voice out there. People who are passionate about what they do. I want to thank you so much again for coming on the show.
Thank
It's been a
you.
pleasure talking to you. You are
Same.
welcome to come on anytime if you want to talk again. The mic is always open for you. Hopefully
Appreciate
one of these days when I get back out to Cleveland, we can sit down and actually have a conversation face to face, and
There
I
you
can
go.
actually record some of the stuff that you're doing for the page. So again,
Yeah.
Shawna O'Hara, she runs her own business, Sprinkles and Crumbs. Again, you can find her on Facebook and her IG page. Go ahead, folks. Go ahead and order from her. You'll taste the difference in what she does because she does it with love. Shawna, thank you very much. It was good
Thank
talking to you. Good seeing you. You have a
you.
great night. Okay.
Thank you so much.
No problem.